All right, so I told you that one's called a level payment because it's the same monthly payment every month. That allows you to schedule a budget and do all kinds of this. Now, you can definitely tell on the amortization table that when you spread it out over 30 years, it brings it to zero. What happens to my monthly payment if I take that same amount and spread it out over 40 years? Right. If I spread the time out, those payments go down. We do have a 40-year loan. There is a 40-year loan out there. Japan has what they call a generational loan. It's 60 years. It's taken out by the father, paid off by the children. Because it's so expensive for land in Japan, the only way they can make it monthly doable is to spread it out over a long number of years. All right? We also have a 15-year loan. What's that do to the payment? It raises it up. So I go from 30 years to 15 years. Does my payment double? No. No. It only goes up by about 16 to 17%. All right? So let me ask you the question of the day. Is it better to amortize over 30 years so I can get a lower payment and buy that new car, or do it over 15 years and pay a little more and save some of that interest? What's the right answer? The right answer is there is no right answer. Everybody has a different preference on how they'd want to spend their money. There are some people that will do a 10 or 15-year loan, save the interest, and then I'll have something to retire for. There are some people that want to spread it out so I can have a good house and a good car and a boat and all that thing because I want the toys now. Both answers are correct. You will run into those people. So there are people that say, oh, I want a 15-year loan or I want a 30. I had one guy literally ask, can I get a 40-year loan? Yes. They're out there. All right? The next type of loan, and I told you level payment loan because it's level. There's another loan that's not level. It's called an ARM. ARM, which stands for Adjustable Rate Mortgage. They call it an ARM. And how I feel about ARMs, you know what's at the end of the arm, don't you? The middle finger. Because that's what ends up happening. So an adjustable rate mortgage where the rate is adjusted every so often. All right? So there are some things we have to talk about in an ARM. The very first thing you need to know when dealing with an ARM, and my marker's dead. Let me see if I can get another marker. Oh, look, just happen to have a blue million of them. Maybe. Must be childproof. Anybody here eat grape nuts? You ever tried to open the bag of grape nuts? Those people ought to make the wall at the border because I can never get that bag open. I can bypass a lot of crap. I can never open a bag of anything that's made by General Mills. Those bags are stuck together. Yeah, that's why you have scissors. That's why I handed it to my wife. I'm like, honey, can you get this? Then when it goes everywhere, it's like, hey, you made a mess. You need to clean that up.
We do everything.
Because you do everything, right? Men are pigs. Too bad we own everything. An ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage. Even men shaking his head on that one, guys. You're on your own, dude. An adjustable rate mortgage adjusts every so often. So let's talk about the first thing you need to know is what is the ARM tied to? That's called an index. What is the index? What is the financial instrument that we use in this United States that interest is tied to. There are multiple ones. Consumer Price Index. All right, that's one. LIBOR, which stands for London Interbank Offered Rate. 10-year Treasury note, 30-year Treasury note. It can be attached to anything. You just need to know what it is. So the index is what it's attached to, meaning that's what it's going to mirror. If you attach it to, what's the other one? What's the big one? Prime. That's the one, prime rate. A lot of banks will offer prime plus one, prime minus one. What they're telling you is, look at the index is the prime rate. They're telling you what to look at. As that prime rate mirrors, you mirror that prime rate. If it goes up, you go up. If it goes down, you go down. So the index, let me go through an example. A buddy of mine literally did have his index. It's called the LIBOR. You guys don't need to really understand that right now. It stands for London's Interbank Offered Rate. It's England's version of our Fed rate that we use. And we'll talk about the Fed rate tomorrow, okay? So it's their national thing. A lot of companies use it because it's very low. The day that Andy got it, the interest rate was 0.3%. All right? So very low. We use it on a lot of big houses, 700, 800, 900 plus. All right? It's a LIBOR. The second thing you need to know, and I get these words mixed up because I learned it different. It's called the spread. Is the book called The Margin? Yeah. It's the spread or the margin. This is the amount of profit that the lending institution is going to add to the index. So for instance, Andy's loan was LIBOR plus 3%. This literally tells you how much money the bank is making. What's the bank making on this interest? 3 points. LIBOR is 0.3. That's what they're going to borrow the money at, and then loan it to you at whatever they borrow it at, plus 3. Think about this. If you walked into Walmart and you buy, see, I was in Walmart the other day and I bought a roll of paper towels. It was $2. I walked to the thing and made it $2. They could have easily have said, whatever we pay plus $1, which is kind of what they do, but they don't. They hide it. If Walmart would have said, we're going to charge you our cost plus $1, then as their cost goes up, what happens to my cost? It goes up. By how much? $1. It's always $1 more than whatever they paid for it. Same concept. LIBOR plus 3 told Andy, we're borrowing the money at LIBOR, and whatever it is, we're adding 3 to it. So in essence, his loan became 3.3%. The 0.3 was the LIBOR. The 3 points is what the bank owned. So Andy knows his loan is 3.3%.
It's like wholesale versus retail.
Yeah, very exactly. It's like they are wholesaling you the loan. They're telling you what I paid and what you're going to pay. And I guess that's what I was saying, when Walmart kind of hides it, you don't know what they paid or their profit. That's a very good example. I'm going to steal that later. Now, the problem with an adjustable rate mortgage is that it's adjustable. And it can fluctuate based on Walmart's cost. Or in this case, the index. Index goes up. So in order to protect Andy, they have what they call rate caps on the loan. And there are 2 of them. The first one is called a period or periodic rate cap. What this says is, did I drop some? Okay. The period rate cap tells you that when the index changes, whenever it is, it cannot jump by more than a certain percentage. So the example I want to show you is, in Andy's loan, it was plus or minus 1%. All right? So in this example, how much was Andy's loan to begin with?
0.3.
No, his loan was 3.3. It was the LIBOR plus the spread. All right? You don't know it yet, but I'll tell you that LIBOR can change every day. What happens if LIBOR goes to hell in a handbasket and tomorrow becomes 28%? His loan payment would go from $800 this month to $24,000 next month. So in order to protect that from happening, they put this period cap on it that says the most yours can go up every time it changes is 1%. So if LIBOR starts at 0.3 and jumps to 28 the next day, the most his can go up is to 1.3 plus his 3 makes it a 4.3 loan.
Does that plus or minus 1% depend on the buyer?
No, the plus or minus means it changes.
Well, I know, but if I have better credit than her.
Oh, you mean the actual number 1? No.
And she get 2.
No, it's typically the loan is written that way.
Okay.
They're pretty standard. We do a loan with rate caps of 1 and 6. All right? So this protects Andy's periodic change of LIBOR from jumping to something that's unattainable for him. So it's called a period rate cap. There's a second rate cap called a lifetime rate cap. This tells Andy, over the course of the life of the loan, how much can it go up? In his example, it was plus or minus 6%. So if LIBOR went from 0.3 to 28, Andy's first change would go to 1.3, because that's the most it can do per change. Now, next month, it's still at 28, so it's going to go up again. How much would it go to? Every period, it can only change 1. So it's going to go to 2.3. All right? See what I'm getting at? The third month, it's still 28, but it can only go 1 every period. So it's going to go to 3.8. The fourth month, it's still at 28. It's going to go to 4.8 because it can only go 1 every period. That's the maximum. It's going to go to 5.8, 6.8, and then stop. Because the loan over the life of it can only go 6. So in this example, it would take 6 months for it to go up 6 points, one at a time. It can't go from 0.3 to 6.3 because that violates the monthly rate cap or the periodic rate cap. You can't go to 7.3 because that violates the lifetime rate cap. Got it? All right. Chavez is like, maybe yes, maybe no. So that's the rate caps. That keeps it from going up and down, from like I said. So his payment one month is not $900 and the next month's $24,000. Literally, and I should get a copy of this because it's kind of cool to see, in his mortgage, it literally says LIBOR as defined by the Wall Street Journal on the last business day of the month. That's what his mortgage says in it. So literally all he has to do is buy a Wall Street Journal newspaper on the last business day of each month, whatever LIBOR is, add 3 to it. The next day, on the first of this month, he starts again. So this month it may be 1.3. Next month it may be 1.24. May go up to 2.2. Then drops back down a point. He literally knows how to calculate his loan because he knows what the interest rate is, because it's LIBOR plus 3, and LIBOR is defined as the Wall Street Journal on the last business day of each month.
I guess if you're buying $1 million house, 1% really isn't that big of a deal in your.
Yeah, and 1% is the max. It could go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and that happens a lot. You know, it might be 0.3 today, tomorrow it might be 0.41, and then it's back down to 0.39. Okay? The fourth term in a adjustable rate mortgage is this thing called a conversion rate. I want to back up one more. In your book, they mention this thing, rate cap. There's another rate cap. What's it called? $1. They use one where it's $1 rate cap instead of a percentage, because a lot of times people have a hard time figuring what a percent is. So they may say the life rate cap is $1,500, and the periodic rate cap can't go over $2,000, and the life rate cap can't go over $12,000. So instead of figuring a percent for you, they tell you $1. I've seen that before. People can figure dollars in their head a lot easier than a percentage. The fourth thing is called a conversion. A conversion is where somebody in the middle of their adjustable rate says, you know what, I want off this merry-go-round. I want to convert it to a 30-year AM from here on out because I think it's going to go up to 6.3, and I'm at 3.3, so I want to convert and lock my rate in and be a fixed rate from here on out. So basically, they're bailing out of the adjustment rate into a fixed rate. There's a fee for that, and that fee is a discount point. That's what it's called. That's where the discount point comes in. How much did the investor going to make versus how much they actually make? You're going to pay that. And that's the question. That's the second question that I want to ask you today. Would you rather have $120? No, let's back up. Would you rather have $120 in cash today or $10 a month for the next 12 months? It's 120. It's 100 in cash or 10 a month for the next 12 months. Some people want the 100 in cash. Some people want the cash flow. Once again, same, it's all the principle. So that's what this conversion is. I don't want to pay the extra payments for the next 30 months, so what I do is I want to convert it to a fixed, and I got to pay $1,000 to do it. Okay, so I'm kind of paying all that now. All right? So that's an adjustable rate. You can have what they call a negative amortization rate. It's there in the book, a negative am. And Joe, this is where I thought you were going early. And I told you, you can't have less, you can't have more than you started with. You actually can. There used to be a loan. Tiffany, I don't know how long you've been helping, if you can remember this. And it was called, you actually had an option on what you wanted to pay every month. You could pay the interest only. You could pay the interest and the principal. You could pay the interest and the principal plus, or you could pay this just minimum $200 fee. But the $200 was less than the interest you accrued, so your principal actually went up. It's called negative amortization. And it was called the option loan or something like that. I've not seen one in a long time. It allowed the user, the consumer, to an option every month as to what they wanted to pay. You know, hey, maybe I lost my job this month. I can't afford to house payment, but so I'll pay this minimum $200 so I don't get in trouble. The problem was the interest you accrued was $250, so you didn't pay even the amount of interest. They added that 50 to the principal.
That's what they had when my parents were buying their house before I was born.
Yeah.
I was like, I think they,
Yeah.
15 years ago, I think.
I dealt with one a number of years ago where Countryride, these people borrowed $140,000 down in Mooresville. By the time they sold it 10 years later, they owed like $220.
That's like the backwards mortgages.
It's, well, we're going to get to reverse mortgage. All right? This is negative amortization. They're different. Negative amortization is I'm still making payments, but I'm not even making the payment big enough that covers the interest that accrued. So the principal's not going down, and the interest is adding on top of the principal. All right? Real quick, I want to just show you, because I think there's a question on the exam. A lot of times you'll see something for an arm. It'll say a 3-1 arm. 3-1 arm looks like that, 3/1, means for 3 years it's fixed, then every year after that it adjusts. That's a 3-1 arm. All right? I have seen a 5-1 arm. What's a 5-1 arm? 5 years it's fixed, then every year after that it changes. I have seen a 1-1 arm, which to me makes no sense. 1 year it's fixed, and then it adjusts every that. I have seen a 1-3 arm. First year it's fixed, then it adjusts every third year. So it kind of locks in for 3, then it changes again for 3. And then the last one I want to mention, just so that you know it, there is a very funny one out there. It's called the 2-step arm. And not if you're from Texas, I don't mean dancing. A 2-step means in the middle of the loan it changes. So it looks like a step here, and then it jumps to there. In the 5th year, it'll jump up, or in the 10th year, it's called a 2-step arm. I've seen that. So just make sure you understand 1-3 arm, or a 3-1 arm, or a 5-1 arm, something like that. Any questions about arms? All right, moving on.